Can a 7 times world champion be caught by their own legacy? What is breaking Lewis Hamilton in Ferrari, and why Belgium can be the turning point or the beginning of the end? Lewis Hamilton lands at Spa-Francorchamps, headquarters of the 2025 Belgium Grand Prix, as 6th in the classification of the Pilot Championship. He has accumulated just 103 points, a figure that alone does not represent disaster, but that acquires another dimension when compared to the 119 points of his partner Charles Leclerc. That internal difference in the same car is devastating in symbolic terms. It means that Hamilton, despite his experience and talent, has not yet deciphered the complexity of SF-25. So far, he has failed to get on the podium on any of the main races. His only victory occurred in the sprint race of the China Grand Prix, a brilliant but isolated performance, in a format that does not directly determine the most valuable score of the calendar. His best result in a long race was a 4th place in Austria. This, for a pilot of his size, is an anomaly that demands a deep explanation. And that is where the true core of the problem arises. It is not about lack of talent, but of adaptation. Hamilton is facing the greatest technical and emotional challenge of his modern career. For the first time since its debut, it is in a completely new environment that does not offer you the tools you used to dominate. Ferrari, with all its virtues as a historical and competitive team, is not Mercedes. The work culture is different, the technical approach also, and the learning curve has revealed more steep than I expected. In recent interviews, Hamilton himself has confessed that he underestimated the time he would take him comfortable at the SF-25 steering wheel. He thought that with his experience and ability to adapt, certain stages of the process could skip. But it has not been so. In addition, comparisons with Leclerc are inevitable. The Monegasco pilot, who has been in the team for years, better understands the nuances of the car, knows how to handle technical uncertainty, and has built a symbiotic relationship with the engineers that Hamilton is just beginning to develop. Every weekend, the timetable not only reflects who was faster, it also reflects who is more connected to the car. And that, for now, is not Hamilton. Spa-Francorchamps not only represents half of the season. It represents the dividing line between the Hamilton that came to Ferrari with epic promises and the Hamilton that must demonstrate that you can still write history with red ink. The pressure does not only come from outside, it comes from within. Because when you are Lewis Hamilton, the standard is not to compete, it is to dominate. And everything that is not that, for him, is not enough. The Ferrari SF-25 is not a slow car, nor is it an absolute disaster. It is, on the other hand, a machine with a difficult, temperamental character, with dark areas that even their own engineers have managed to illuminate completely. And that makes it a true internal enemy for Lewis Hamilton. Because when the battle is no longer against Red Bull or McLaren, but against your own car, the challenge changes in nature. It becomes psychological, constant, and exhausting. One of the main problems of SF-25 is its assisted management system. At first glance, it looks like a minor failure, but in Formula One the small technical imperfections can be multiplied by 1,000 in borderline situations. The defect is especially presented in high-speed curves, just when the pilots need to have maximum confidence in the front train of the car. The wheel feedback becomes erratic, unpredictable. In sectors such as Maggots-Beckett's of Silverstone or the Eau Rouge in Spa, this inconsistency generates a subtle but real panic. It's not just about losing speed, it is the constant fear of losing the car. Fred Vasseur, director of Ferrari, has publicly admitted the existence of the problem, but has refused to give technical details. The phrase that has repeated the most is that it can be solved, but not when or how. Meanwhile, the pilots, especially Hamilton, must deal with a system that does not behave the same in each lap, which does not respond the same between one session and another. In a sport where repeatability is key, where each movement is timed to the millimeter, this type of unpredictability is toxic. To this is added the second great technical demon of the SF-25, its driving height. Ferrari has designed a lower car that should roll its aerodynamic load. But they cannot do it without running the risk that the flat background touch the asphalt. And that not only subtracts performance, also generates regulatory problems. The clearest case was Hamilton's disqualification in the China Grand Prix. The wear of the ground plane exceeded the permitted limits, a direct consequence of forcing the car to a regime for which it was not prepared. These types of errors not only cost points, they erode the morale of a pilot who is already frustrated by the lack of results. To counteract this problem, Ferrari has been working on a key update, a new rear suspension. This piece is not a simple geometry change. It implies redesigning delicate areas such as the environment of the gearbox and modifying the damping systems to allow the car to have greater route without losing stability. It is a complex, expensive solution that has not yet been validated in the race. But the plan is to install it in Belgium just when Hamilton needs it more. Engineers talk about a car that does not have a clear operational window. That is, there is no magical configuration where everything works well. You always have to sacrifice something. Braking stability, traction in slow curves, or efficiency in lines. And when one of those commitments becomes a major problem, the race is lost before starting. So fine is the margin. For a pilot like Hamilton, who bases his performance on absolute precision and the millimeter reading of car behavior, this is undercover torture. Not that I have forgotten how to pilot. It is that the car between hands does not allow you to express your talent without paying a price. Spa-Francorchamps is not just another circuit on the calendar. It is a sacred scenario for Formula One, a track that combines extreme speed, technical curves, and unpredictable weather conditions. It is, in many ways, the definitive test of the temper of a pilot and the technical preparation of a team. For Lewis Hamilton, the 2025 Belgian Grand Prix is not just one more race. It is a crossroads. It can become the moment of redemption that needs so much, or be the point where everything begins to collapse without return. In this context, SPA represents more than a sports opportunity. It is symbolically the midpoint of an irregular season, a season where Hamilton has experienced technical frustrations, emotional wear, and a more steep learning curve than any champion could have anticipated. But it also comes as the first weekend where Ferrari plans to implement one of its most important updates of the year, the complete evolution of the rear suspension of the SF-25. This modification is not cosmetic. It is a structural transformation designed to give the car the flexibility that has been missing from the preseason. The objective is double. Allow the car to work lower, put aerodynamic efficiency, and at the same time, avoid the dreaded rebound or excessive contact with the ground, which has been one of the great injuries of the Ferrari in 2025. If this update works as expected, Spa could not only mean a change of tendency for the Scuderia, but also for Hamilton himself, which has so far been limited by the rigidity. Conceptual car. Hamilton knows it. He has declared that Spa is one of the circuits where he has felt most comfortable throughout his career. Here he has lived great moments, memorable victories, spectacular comebacks, and rain control exhibitions that have reinforced their legacy as one of the best of all time. But that story does not guarantee anything in 2025. The Lewis Hamilton that arrives in Belgium this year is not the dominant of other times. It is a Hamilton that struggles to reunite with its essence in the middle of the chaos of a team that has not yet found stability. The margin of error is minimal. In a circuit like Spa, where the weather can change in a matter of minutes and the tire management becomes critical, any technical imbus or doubtful strategic decision can condemn a whole weekend. Therefore, this GP becomes a total trial field. If Ferrari and Hamilton manage to assemble this new suspension well, if the car responds better in high-speed curves and manages to maintain a more stable operational window, then the return to the podium could be closer than ever. But if the improvements do not translate into immediate performance, the risk of an internal fracture is real. Because it's not just about losing points, it's about losing faith. In a category so dependent on technical trust and psychological momentum, another disappointment in SPA could feed doubts both inside and outside the team. In short, Spa-Francorchamps will not be just the scenario of one more race. It will be the time when Hamilton and Ferrari define what type of season they are building. A transition season or a season of failure. A season where the past of glory is a promise of the future, or a burden that they cannot sustain. Everything is decided here. Because in this circuit, where each curve is a challenge and every straight question, there is no place for excuses. Only results. And Lewis Hamilton needs one now. More than ever. The 2025 Formula One season has exposed one of the crudest truths of modern motoring. Talent by itself is not enough. The story of Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari to the Belgian Grand Prix is not a simple transition from a star pilot to a new team. It is a collision between the narrative expectation of the redemption and the structural reality of a car that is not yet up to it. Each race has been a kind of warning. Neither experience, nor past glory, nor the titles guarantee immediate success when the technical foundations do not accompany. This is not a passenger downturn. It is a stage where the most successful pilot of the hybrid era has encountered its most challenging limit: uncertainty. A car without a defined character, a demanding environment that does not give truce, and an internal struggle that goes beyond the chronometers. It is a daily battle to recover trust, for understanding the whims of a car that sometimes seems more an enemy than a work tool. However, if SP ends up being a repetition of errors, a new festival of breeding and unfulfilled promises, the narrative will change irremediably. The focus will move from hope to criticism. The analysts will stop asking themselves when Hamilton will win and will begin to question if that victory will ever be dressed in red. It is a subtle but devastating difference in media and emotional terms. In Ferrari, the margin for error is not only measured in tenths, it is measured in reputations. And here the true point of reflection emerges. Can your experience reverse a negative dynamic, or sport has evolved towards a place where even the greatest need constant reinventions?